If you're thinking about a Marvel movie that came before, like the whole MCU, what comes to your mind? You may be wondering, oh, it's the Fox X-Men movies. You're wrong. Is it the Spider-Man ones? Wrong again. Because every one of those things was like before, that was in the 2000s. Because in 1986, a movie came out that Marvel was really trying to adapt, put characters to the screen. This was one movie that became infamous for many wrong reasons and still talked about to this day. A talking duck from another world, an Academy Award-winning producer, a very huge budget, a lot bigger than a table, and one of Hollywood's biggest box office disappointments of all time. And a film that pretty much everyone doesn't want to talk about. Well, today I'm about to talk about that really bad Marvel movie that people pretty much forgot about. What's going on, everybody, guys? My name is Nate, and on this 59th episode of The Road to Avengers Doomsday, we are unfortunately taking a look at Howard the Duck, a film that is widely considered as one of the worst comic book movies of all time, and it became one of the most infamous movies on what not to do when adapting a popular comic book character. So I'm here to break down this entire movie to you guys. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show as I take you deep dive into Howard the Duck. As I previously said, this was Marvel's very first movie, like in the 1980s. This was long before the Sam Raimi movies, Blade, the X-Men. Howard the Duck was the first up in line, and people were very skeptical of this. I know I was not born in the 1980s, but I decided to give it some watch to myself, and some audiences did too. But for those of you who don't know, Howard the Duck is based on the Marvel character of the same name, created by Steve Gerber and artist Val Mayerick. And this was literally based a little spoof off of Donald Duck from Disney, but they changed up a bit mostly, and to this day people are still confused. How is he different? But just look at an article and you'll see. And at the time when this movie came out in 1986, comic book movies were still a huge gamble at the time. Hollywood doesn't know how to adapt these characters, unlike today. And unfortunately, as I explained later, Howard the Duck became a lesson on what not to do when adapting a comic book movie. One of the reasons the film had some expectations was the involvement of George Lucas himself. Yes, the George Lucas, the guy who created Star Wars and Indiana Jones. He was the film's executive producer, by the way, not the director. So when audiences heard about this, they were like, "Oh, this is gonna be pretty good." But despite having a well-experienced creator in this movie, this film had struggled to balance comedy, sci-fi, romance, and fiction all in once. Even today, many movie fans and hardcore Marvel fans like myself doesn't know what this movie was made for. For kids, adults, comic book fans? No one knows the answer, especially me. I wish I did, but I'm here to talk on this video all about it. But the cast movie was quite ambitious at the time. So the film manages to star Lee Thompson as Beverly Switzer. She does her best and for material and one of the movie's strong performances, the way I could see it. And it also had actor Tim Robbins. It would be years before he win an Academy Award, and he plays as scientist Phil Blumbert. Looking back, it was pretty fun to see actors who will later pretty much become huge Hollywood stars that we know today. Now, the voice of the title character himself is none other than actor Chip Zinn. While performance inside the Howard costume brought to life with the character to life physically, this technology in the 1980s was very unique, unlike in today's standards. And this was an enormous challenge because many practical effects, like removing a small character, require a lot of work in the animatronics, and at times it can get pretty frustrating. And that's exactly what pretty much was going on with the production of Howard the Duck. I mean, you can read an entire article about it on just what was wrong with the production of Howard the Duck. I was blown away when I first saw this. I'm like, dang, They really went down this road, didn't they, folks? Yeah, pretty much. While some of the technology we see looks pretty cool in my opinion, time has been practically kind from this movie. But I do appreciate how much money the movie relied on practical filmmaking instead of CGI, which barely even existed at the time until later the early to late 2000s, the 2010s, etc. That was when huge deals happened. So, I know what you're all thinking. Why did Howard the Duck unfortunately sank in the box office? Well, oh my gosh. There were so many wrong reasons that this movie was a massive hole in the ground. The tone is all over the place. One minute there's comedy, then there's science fiction, then horror, romance. It just doesn't work like that. And second, many comic book fans were unaware of Howard the Duck as a Marvel character. Howard the Duck was not a household name. The marketing was severely low and people were just confused like, what is this movie? What am I even watching? And as a result, audiences stayed away and the critics were overwhelmingly negative, you guys. And my idea was like pretty bad. Like, it shows like how Hollywood should not do a comic movie. Now I want to say my thoughts. I understand that why Howard the Duck got the reception it does. It's a pretty odd movie. The jokes were like really did not land, and some parts of the film were like super bizarre. And it's just but some people will later consider it a good cult classic of it's so bad it's good. Knowing how unusual it was like to have a comic book movie like this be made, it's just really interesting how Marvel was only pushed like have their characters on screen. But they pretty much taking the wrong notes. Thankfully, that would not happen again. Oh wait, a few times it did later on in the years. But yeah, if you guys are probably wondering if that was the last time we ever see Howard the Duck on the big screen, he did not disappear forever. The character made surprise appearances in the MCU, beginning with Guardians of the post-credit scenes of Guardians of the Galaxy. I do like how we get to see a bit of Howard, even though he got a pretty bad movie in the 1980s. It was pretty nice to see as a side cameo for the Guardians films. It's also a fun reminder with even a movie with a really difficult legacy can still have a place in the MCU. So yeah, why do I talk about Howard the Duck leading to Avengers Doomsday? Because every chapter in Marvel matters. Without the success and the failures, Marvel might even learn how to build a techno franchise we know today. Howard the Duck reminds us that adapting comic books wasn't always easy. Sometimes you have to stumble before you get to soar. So is the Howard the Duck great movie? No, not really. But is it an important movie? Absolutely. It represents like the fascinating chapter of Marvel history. And when superhero movies were finding their identity, it did not become a huge blockbuster success that Marvel hoped. But it still has a unique place in pop culture from Hollywood's long list of forgotten movies. And sometimes, even the strangest stories deserve to be remembered. But anywho, if you enjoyed this episode of Nate Reviews, make sure to give it a like, comment, and subscribe. And let me know down in the comments below. Do you really think Howard the Duck deserves a negative reception? Or do you find it as an entertaining cult classic? But yeah, we really appreciate it. So yeah, thanks for watching. Remember, my videos are just the reviews and the thoughts of the movies I see on a daily basis. And I'll see you guys next time in the video. So, peace out, have a good day, and be good people.